For 2025, Mazda has teamed up with Toyota to make a hybrid version of the CX-50. Seems like a pretty big win. Mazda styling, Mazda interior, Mazda driving dynamics, but with Toyota's efficient and proven powertrain. But just because two things are great separately doesn't necessarily mean they will be great together. Let's go ahead and find out. As always, I'm going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. Let's go ahead, take a look. Starting off under the hood of the CX-50 hybrid, we have Toyota's 4th generation hybrid systems, which makes sense because this is produced in the same facility as the Toyota Corolla Cross down in Huntsville, Alabama. So this is a 3-motor system. It's got the internal combustion engine, a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that runs the front wheels, and then you've got one electric motor helping run the front wheels, one electric motor helping run the rear wheels, and then another one to get the internal combustion engine going, as well as sort of help distribute the power from the nickel-hydride battery. Combined output peaks at 219 horsepower, 163 pound-feet of torque. The engine alone will make 179 horsepower, 163 pound-feet. And your front motor is rated at 118 horsepower, 149 pound-feet, while the rear motor is 54 horsepower and 89 pound-feet of torque. So definitely a heavily front-biased system. And of course, with that 3-motor system, it is exclusively available in all-wheel drive form. Fuel economy here, we're looking at about 38 miles per gallon combined, 39 city, 37 highway, and no, those numbers are not switched. That is typical for a hybrid to get better fuel economy in the city. And that's a pretty big jump over the regular CX-50, which is around 25 city, 31 highway in the non-turbo form. Some exterior notes that help differentiate the hybrid are the cladding, the lower front bumper, of course the hybrid badges, and you get unique wheels. Typically you're going to be on 17s, but since this is the top spec Premium Plus, it's sitting on 19s. Either way, you're wrapped in an all-season tire. Though interestingly, this tester appears to be on Eagle Tourings, which are noted as mud and snow tires. The only way to get auto folding mirrors is in the top spec Premium Plus, though you do get heat, blind spot monitoring, and the LED turn signal in there as standard, as well as the keyless access to the front with a touch on the inside to unlock, touch on the outside to lock. No keyless access to the rear doors in any of the hybrids. While I'm not the biggest fan of white, Mazda continues to offer some pretty great colors, including Soul Red Crystal Metallic, which is the best red in automotive, and there's a really nice blue as well. This year for 2025, they've added Cypress Green, so there was a little bit of a trade there with Toyota. Toyota now has Soul Red Crystal Metallic on the Corolla Cross, and the CX-50 gets that Cypress Green, but unfortunately you can't get it on the hybrid. It's only on the non-hybrid versions. I'm not really sure where that decision came in, but I'm such a sucker for green. I really wish you could get that on the hybrid CX-50. Standard LED headlights and fog lights. Note there's no camera up here, no parking sensors, as those are not available even here in the top spec Premium Plus. When you get the hybrid, you can get those on the Premium Plus Turbo version, just not on the hybrid version for some reason. A little bit of a strange omission there. LED combination tail lights, you got the floating brake light, you do have a rear wiper here, and power lift gate is going to be standard on all the hybrid trims. No, it's not a kick to open, it's just either push the button or you can use the key fob, of course. But no, on the key fob, there's no remote start here. You can't even like triple tap the lock or anything. It's just your lock, unlock, and then your panic and your ability to open the hatch here. But this opens up into a pretty decent amount of space. You do lose out on a little bit of room as compared to the non-hybrid version because you do have a little bit more of that running gear. But overall, pretty decent amount of space. And then you do still have the 60-40 split on the seats. And if you need a little bit of extra room, you can always pull this down and knock those seats down flat. You do have a 12-volt over here on the side, and you have a real spare underneath here. Glad to see that it's not just a fix-a-flat kit. You do have a full spare. And then, of course, you can push the button here to close. Now, the interior is, well, it's really nice. This is one of the reasons that people like to pick Mazda over some of the competition. It feels like it punches above its price point. And you know, I would argue that this is a nicer interior than the top spec RAV4. So big win there. But the RAV4 is being updated for 2026, and that's going to be out at the end of the year. So I would not be surprised, based on the new Camry, if the new RAV4 is either more in line or even better than this interior. But at least for now, this is a really nice place to be. Now, unfortunately, you can't get all the same features that you can get in the RAV4 or even in the all-gas version of the CX-50 when you choose the hybrid. No heated steering wheel, no 360 camera, and no rear heated seats. So if you can live without those things, you're in a good spot. Otherwise, a little bit frustrating, especially the heated steering wheel. That's a big one. This one being the top spec Premium Plus hybrid, it gets the leather seats and leather surfaces. You get the choice of either black with this camel stitching, which is this brown color, or you can get a red, which is exclusive to the hybrid. Front seats are heated and ventilated, 8-way power adjustability with lumbar for the driver, 6-way power for the passenger. You got the 12-speaker Bose sound system in this one, auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink, nice big moonroof that goes all the way back. The heated seats aren't actually standard, same goes for wireless charger, which has worked great, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which have also worked wonderfully. Leather-wrapped steering wheel, leather-wrapped shift knob, also standard. We've got Mazda's typical infotainment, where you do have the option to touch for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both while you're moving and while you're static, but only if you can reach here. So really, it's only if you're sitting still, unless you drive like this, I guess. But then you've got the command center down here to handle all of your functions, which will also work when you've got the phone projected up there, but this is for your typical infotainment. I know I'm not going to get too into the weeds on the command center system, because I've talked about that plenty in past videos, and I know that people that own these typically tend to love them and prefer using the knob over the infotainment, over the touch for the infotainment anyway. The settings are deep in terms of safety, convenience, sound. You got all kinds of vehicle settings in there. And the cluster is Mazda's typical layout as well, with the nice big 3-dial system. Just a couple of things have been changed around a little bit for the hybrid. Instead of a regular tach, you have this charge power gauge over on the side, and then you've got a little EV note there, and you only have a couple of pieces of information you can cycle through. I know a lot of people really like the big digital clusters. Honestly, I really prefer the simplicity of this. I like, even though these are, the middle one's a digital gauge and these have some digital stuff behind them, I prefer the look of the analog gauges. I prefer the simplicity. They're easy to read, and just simpler and less stuff in your face. In the back seats, you got about 38 inches of legroom, which matches the RAV4 hybrid, but it's about 2 inches less than you get in the regular CX-50, the all-gas version. Again, you lose a little bit of space in the cargo area, lose a little bit of space back here, but me at 5'7", I'm totally fine, especially with this cutout here in the seats. I'd probably be okay up to maybe 5'10", 5'11". Once you start getting into 6 feet and taller, you're gonna maybe run into some problems here. Headroom also pretty decent, with the squared off top, but again, 5'10", 5'11" is probably about your limit back here. I've got my son in a forward-facing seat. He's had no problem. The rear-facing seat, you might be able to fit on the passenger side if you get the passenger seat pushed up a little bit, but it's going to be a little bit tight with the rear-facing seat. Vents back here are standard, some USB-Cs, no blinders or anything. We got fold-down armrest here, some cup holders. I love the giant sunroofs here, and the Premium and the Premium Plus get you the big sunroof. Love it when it comes all the way back here to the back seat and you get a lot of light. Overall, it's just a really nice interior. It feels very premium, especially over the current RAV4, but it's just really odd that you can't even get a heated steering wheel, the 360 cam. Those are the big things. The rear heated seats, give or take. I guess if you have people back there a lot, but, I got kid seats back there, so they can't really utilize them anyway. But the heated steering wheel and the 360 cam, those would be really nice to see, especially since you can get them in the CX-50 already, just not in the hybrid. All right, when it comes to the driving experience, this is where, all the differences are really going to make their way out of the woodwork between this and the regular CX-50 and the RAV4 hybrid. So you have Mazda driving dynamics, so you have great throttle response, you have great handling for a crossover. This is not something that you're going to be changing carving probably, but for something of this size and this general shape, it handles pretty decently. And you have a little bit of weight in the steering, as well as a little bit of communication in the steering, which is another thing Mazda does really well compared to the competition. It's not just this like super light video game flopping all over the place steering. It actually makes it feel like a little bit more of an engaging driving experience, and it makes driving a little bit more enjoyable than your typical crossover. Of course, that's going to be the same as in the CX-50, but the RAV4 hybrid is going to be a little bit more sort of loose in terms of the steering and in terms of the driving dynamics. And it's plenty quick, over 200 horsepower. It's not going to light your hair on fire, but it will get you moving totally fine if you need to hit a gap in traffic, you're merging onto the highway, whatever you need to do. You know, it's got plenty of power to do that. But with the eCVT, it does make angry Toyota noises when you're putting your foot to the floor, whether you're going up a big hill or merging on the highway or whatever. So it does kind of give you that angry sort of droney sort of sound when you get your foot on it. Now, most of the time when you're cruising, it's plenty quiet enough, but it's just when you go to accelerate in pretty much any situation, it does give you those angry Toyota CVT noises, eCVT, sorry, noises. And part of the charm of driving a Mazda is, the traditional torque converter automatic is a big piece of it, the real gears. Again, it feels a little bit more engaging. It feels a little bit, it could use more than 6 gears, the regular CX-50, but feels a little less angry sounding, and it's a little bit more interesting to drive. Plus, a lot of times you get the paddles, or you can shift for yourself if you're into that. But I know most people probably aren't using the paddles, but still, it's just something a little bit more engaging feeling, and a little bit less drone. Now, an area where Mazda typically doesn't do so hot is the safety and assist features are a little bit overbearing. They're typically pretty intrusive. Haven't really had that problem here. Everything's really stayed out of the way pretty well. So I guess those systems are improving. So it's got the adaptive cruise with stop and go. It's got the blind spot, the rear cross traffic. It even shows your blind spot in the heads-up display. It has the collision mitigation where it has like the smart braking system. It'll try to avoid a collision. And it does have the lane shove assist as well, where it'll shove you back into your lane. There's no true lane centering, so that's a big point for Toyota, because they have a pretty decent lane centering system, which is great on the highway, mixed with the adaptive cruise. If you haven't used that system before, if you haven't had a car with that, then it's probably not as big of a deal, but that's something that I really like to have on my commute or on long road trips. It's just a little bit less fatigue, I guess. It just helps sort of keep you centered in your lane on long trips. So that'd be nice to see here, but really Mazda only has that in like the CX-90 and CX-70, and even then it's a little bit iffy, whereas Toyota system's pretty good. The heads-up display that I mentioned, so it's got the blind spot in there, it's got your lane shove, it'll tell you which lane you're going over if it's shoving you back into your lane. It's got your current speed limit, it'll have your adaptive cruise settings, and it also has your directions. Heads-up displays are kind of a convenience thing if it just has 1 or 2 pieces of information in it. But it's really a lot more helpful once you get blind spot monitoring in there and once you get directions in there, because then those are things that you're looking at a lot more often. Overall, this is just a very sort of mixed bag of a driving experience. It really does feel like you merged a Mazda with a Toyota, because that's essentially what has happened here. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you like the interiors, if you like the handling, if you like the styling of the Mazda, you want a little bit more efficiency, then I guess this maybe makes sense for you, but this feels very niche. For me personally, I would rather go all Mazda and get the powertrain as well, get the character of the powertrain along with the rest of the package. It just kind of fits a little bit better with that package, whereas the RAV4 makes more sense if you just care more about the efficiency and the driver's assist features and stuff, plus the fact that this one you can't get all of the features when you get the hybrid, that are all the features that are available on both the CX-50 and on the RAV4, just not on the hybrid. So it's just a little bit of an odd spot. It feels like a very sort of niche spot for me. And so me personally, I would rather get either CX-50 or a RAV4 hybrid. It just kind of, those make more sense as total packages. But as always, let me know what you think down in the comments of the CX-50 hybrid, whether you would pick this over the regular CX-50 or over the RAV4 hybrid. And thanks for watching. See you next time.